This is Advisor 3.0, a show designed to help you as a financial advisor elevate your professional practice, transform your clients' lives, and take your business to the next level. I am Abraham Okusoya. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. One of the joys of my career is having a front row seat into how financial planners are creating and building their businesses. And that experience is often very different than the narrative that is out there about how small and medium-sized independent financial planning firms are struggling. And so because what I see often is people taking their career and their business in their own hands and thriving and making a success of it. And that's why I am excited by my conversation today with James de Lisle Wells, who is a financial planner and the director at de Lisle Financial Planning. This is a fascinating conversation about how James joined the profession some 15 years ago, spent 11 years helping build a great firm, and 2 years ago James struck out on his own to set up de Lisle Financial Planning. James, welcome to the show.
Delighted to be invited.
I am delighted that you're able to join. So for our audience, give us a little bit of a background, how you joined this wonderful profession.
So I guess like most people, kind of fell into financial planning. Left school not really knowing what I wanted to do, ended up doing a transport and logistics degree, and about 2 years into that degree realised I hadn't really got much interest in the subject by that far. But by that point, I was so far through, I thought I'd better...
You realised you got no interest in transport or logistics. Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say no interest, but I was happy enough to finish the course, but I didn't see it as being an industry that I was going to continue in afterwards.
Right.
So, so did that, and then scratched my head and went traveling for a year, did that sort of thing, and then came back and got a job as an administrator at a training company. So did sort of apprenticeships and MVQs close to home, and that ended up being a lot more than I expected, and sort of rose up a bit through the ranks, if you like, and became an area manager there. So worked there for about 4 years, had a small team, great experience, really good business. But I guess in my heart of hearts, I never really felt it was an industry that I was going to stay in for the long term. So finished that, sort of redundancy came up, which just timed in well, and they got bought out by another company. And then after that, basically had a little bit of dose of family tragedy, as some people go through. So that happened, and at the same time, just tried to really work out where I wanted to go next. So I really skipped between jobs, whether it was recruitment, went and worked for a garden furniture company in 2007. And if you can remember 2007, that's when the floods happened. So it was one of the wettest summers on record. So not particularly good timing from that perspective. And then decided I'd give logistics another crack, and decided I was definitely not cut out for logistics. From that point, a good friend of mine who I'd actually put in a job when I was working for the recruitment company said that there's this, who's working for a financial planning company, and said this financial planner job come up, and I think it might suit you. So look, why don't you come for a chat and interview and things like that? So I did, went along to the interview. I was completely useless, and I wouldn't have even given myself the job. And funnily enough, I didn't get the job. But what it did do is it sort of like piqued my interest, and went, right, okay, that is something I really want to give a bit of a go to. So From there, I ended up working for a company called Lisle Financial, so part of Lisle Insurance. So they're well known for student insurance, or were back in the day. So that was about 2008. So obviously, interesting time to be getting into financial services. And started off literally selling protection on the telephone. So you used to get sort of leads, people looking for protection on the internet. You call them up and sell them life insurance, income protection, but really good environment. And there's a really good team, of which when you were doing it, you could do all your qualifications. So went in, blitzed the qualifications, and then with that, they had an arm that was financial advice. I mean, it was pretty limited, but picking up orphan clients from Zurich and sort of having conversations about pensions, pretty basic from that perspective, but great as a learning ground. So that really sort of allowed me to get a base. And then from there, I got what I would say is a sort of big break, is that went and joined a company called Kellen's Cotswolds, which later rebranded as Ermin Foss. And that was a 3-partner business. One of the partners had recently retired. They were looking for a little bit of younger blood. I kind of half knew, or a bit more than that, and knew Nigel through personal connections, and he was the senior partner, so got me on board, and that was 2011, and that's when my journey, I would say, properly sort of landed into financial planning and built up from there. So it was, I would say, pretty up and down. It was quite a very, very hard work to get started. And Nigel and James were fantastic people and exceptionally supportive, and I've got so much to be grateful for. But there was also a lot that was done within the business where I would say it could be more organised, and outcomes could have been a little bit more consistent, if you like, and just the general profitability and turnover of the business had scope for improvement. They were incredibly skilled financial advisors, but certainly systematically, I think there were things that could be improved. So that was part of the reason why I got involved. I'm quite process driven, quite systems, and very clean on client outcomes. And through a process of sort of just getting out there really, and finding out how to be a better business, then sort of between the 3 of us, we really built it up. And then another advisor, a bit younger than me, joined as well. And then in the 11 years that I was there, we sort of tripled, almost quadrupled turnover. And I'd say we turned it much more from a financial advisory business to a financial planning business. So like things that we did, we went on Brett Davidson's course, and that was a huge thing in terms of getting the business really sort of ship shape. And Domi, I forget her surname, it had a huge impact in sort of getting the processes of the business going. So that was me. And then as we sort of built the business up, the offer of partnership came on. So I became a partner around about 2016. So really good, Nigel and James, to include me, but it was definitely something I was angling for, and a carrot that was always offered from the start, and that obviously tied me into the business. So the plan was always for me and the other advisor to take over from Nigel and James. They were in their sort of mid-50s or early 50s when I joined. And then effectively time went on. We got to COVID in 2020. And James, one of the other partners there, who was in his early 60s at that point, quite understandably said, right, yeah, I'm done. I want to get out of the business. I want to retire. So let's speed things up. Let's get it done. So we tried really hard to sort it out between the 4 of us in terms of an internal succession plan. And they tried really hard, we tried really hard, but effectively we couldn't just quite get to a full agreement about how it was going to do. And then really at that point we said, right, we better start speaking to some outside people and see if there's what the options are in terms of selling the business. So privately, went to a couple of people, somebody that Nigel knew, I knew other people in the industry to talk about it, and effectively the decision, once we started to speak to other people, became pretty clear pretty quickly. We essentially agreed that the business was going to be sold, and then the next option was, with regards to me and the other advisor, about whether we were going to join them in terms of the sale. And it was really at that point where it was like, do I really want to join this consolidator? Absolutely no problem with them whatsoever. They seem fine as a business, but actually I had my own views in terms of how I wanted the business to be shaped up and how I wanted to run a financial planning business. And so I pretty early on said, right, that's it. Yeah, look, guys, thanks very much, but I'm out. I'm going to go my own way. And the way it worked, because we were in an LLP in terms of a limited liability partnership, effectively it was kind of built in silos. So I owned my client bank and each of the others owned their individual client bank. So I left the business with the option to take my clients. So they very much said, right, okay, look, you can lead the conversations if you like, but the clients have to be given the option about whether they come with you or whether they stay with Foss. And thankfully, the vast majority of families came with me. So I set up de Lisle Financial Planning in December 2021, and crucially had that sort of client bank to start off with, which was a big boost in terms of being able to start like that.
That's incredible journey. Thank you, James. So take me back. I'm just trying to understand the timeline. So you came into the industry, or the industry, you came into the profession in 2019. Sorry, 2009. Sorry,
2008. Yeah.
Sorry, 2008. So this is like, the beginning of the great financial crisis.
Absolutely.
You came in and you were in the sort of the life insurance side of things, sort of, as you said, ringing customers up, talking to them about life insurance, and you blasted through your qualifications in that process. So by the time you joined Foss, which was 5 years later, 2000
about 3 years later, 2011, I joined.
2011. Sorry. Yeah. Sorry. Forgive me. I'm just trying. You were already a qualified financial advisor at that point. So you got all your qualifications, you had some experience under your belt, and you joined the firm as a qualified, financial advisor. You went into the business as in 2011, 3 years
Correct.
later.
Yeah.
All right, good stuff. So now, that's good, because I always wonder, I speak to people about how long it takes someone, maybe with some experience with a university degree, how long it takes them to actually come in and become a full-fledged financial advisor. And then you helped, over the subsequent 11 years, you help transform this business, quadruple or triple the revenue, the AUM, the clients, all of that stuff, all of that great stuff. And then the crunch time came. It's such a powerful thing. I say that because for a number of reasons, I was at that event that we met. And by the way, we had none of this conversation that we're having now then, right? But one particular thing that I walked away from this, the CISI Financial Planning Conference was two things. One is that you see this good number of younger financial planners, people in their 30s and 40s, who have been brought into a business, a financial planning business, as potential successors, and he ended up in many of those scenarios not happening. So I'm putting them in this bracket of, forgive me, it might sound derogatory. I need to think of a different way to look at it, but let's call it frustrated successors, where the succession plan never happened as intended by both the successors and what do we call the owners. It didn't happen as they both wanted it to happen.
Yeah.
And then what I see, often is the consolidator swooping in with cash. They do provide succession plans, succession for the exiting financial planners or financial planning businesses. But what tends to happen in the process is that the successors leave and they find their own way. They create their own businesses, because they wanted to go in different direction. And if I am joining the dots correctly here, the other financial planner who was with you along that journey left and joined another practice, and now I understand they're striking out on their own. But I am fascinated. So I say financial planning have a succession problem, right? And that consolidators are they are a succession plan for financial advisors, but not in the way that they imagine. It's very different. Would you agree, disagree, criticize, opine on my the connections I'm drawing here?
Yeah, I mean, I'd go along with a lot of what you said there. And I think if you spoke to Nigel and James, they'd be slightly disappointed that they couldn't quite get us to take on as successors. But equally, they understand completely why it didn't arise. And like the finances has a large part to do with it. It's not the only thing, but just
why didn't it arrive? Is it like you couldn't agree on a price? Is it? And I know there are other people in this conversation, so we have to be mindful and respectful. But from your point of view, this is just one side of the equation. Why? Couldn't you get to a price? Couldn't you find a way to arrange the financing? I mean, what was it?
That is a bit difficult for me to answer. What I will say is that price-wise, Nigel and James were willing to offer a lower price for us to buy out the business than that was offered by the consolidators. But it was certainly a point there, though, that with the price, that it would have meant significant amounts of debt that we would have had to carry, and that does play on your mind. So that came into a large part of it. But there were other things as well in terms of just having visions about how the business wanted to be run. So things such as an evidence-based investment strategy and just other aspects from a financial planning aspect that really wanted to do it. And so,
but wouldn't Nigel and James, wouldn't you and the other planner be the owner? And you would be the ones to determine the direction going forward from there in terms of evidence-based investing, all that stuff. And as long as you have a plan and you keep your promise to pay Nigel and James, why should they have a say in the running of the business going forward, as long as you protect the interest and you find a way to pay them? Isn't that the idea? This is the thing. Why should? It's like, this is interesting. I'm going to digress, but like I talk to people in the house sale process, right? I talk to people who say, let's say they want to sell their house, but they want some control or some say over what happens to the house after they sold it. They say things like, I'm just like being like, they say, oh, we don't want a developer to come here and develop. I'm thinking, why is it your business? You're selling and gone. Why should you have any say over the sale, over what happens after your sale? Now, I agree that in this case it's very different because you know, there might be a period that you have to pay them back. There might be some sort of owner's financing part into the equation. But shouldn't the essence be that from now on, we take the reins and we go forward?
Possibly, and I completely understand that argument, but ultimately only one partner was retiring, so there was still another partner that was continuing working there, so that has an impact upon it. And I get it from their point of view in terms of the fact that it's been their baby. They started the business and they've got visions about how they run the business and how they want to do things, and that's what they've created. And you know, and they've got a vision about how the business might continue from their perspective. So I kind of get it that they've got an idea about what they might want it to look afterwards. I mean, ultimately, yeah, if you were taking on, then you've got the right to do that. But it does come with legacy, a certain legacy about how things are done. And whereas I'm obviously starting with a new business with a completely blank sheet and about how I can go about things. So you know, like when I come to say my business about how I want it, who I want to sell it to in the future and things like that, in my mind, I'm going to be very specific about like those people that buy the business and what I want, how I see them running the business. So I can see both sides.
No, I understand that. And sorry, you thought you were coming to this podcast, you know, to talk about your journey, and I'm unloading my emotional baggage and several conversations. It's just trends that I see in the industry of, you know, I use the word industry in the profession of planning. I sat next to people, talked to people at the conference who have built incredible businesses, and I spoke to both younger successors who are like frustrated that things aren't going as planned. I have a few examples of people I've spoken to, and indeed there's an episode may come out before this one of successful internal succession. You know, there are a couple of great examples, but more and more I'm coming across the frustrated succession issue. And a big part of that is, as a matter of fact, I spoke to a group of younger planners who said to me, we've helped over a decade or so, we've helped grow this business so much so that we cannot afford to now buy it. Do you see what I mean? Like, we've helped them grow the business and we can't afford to buy it because of challenges that you say with the debt, taking on substantive debt, or the owners not being willing or able to finance the deal. I have seen, I think we've interviewed two people on the podcast who've had successful owner finance, be that one of them is family, within the family, the other is completely external. But I'm fascinated by this trend and what it means for the business, and no doubt I'm going to be unpacking it. But anyway, enough of what I think. So tell me, what was the launch date for your business? Sorry.
So I think, if memory serves me correctly, I think it was the 6th of December 2021. So yeah, just coming up to 2 years now. So that's when I'm directly authorized. So that's when it came through, and then it was all systems go in terms of moving clients across and getting systems, processes, everything in place, etc.
So 2021, the Lisle Financial Planning got off the ground, and was it just you? This was the middle of COVID, wasn't it?
I think we had a break in COVID at that point, so I'm not sure we were in lockdown at the time that was happening. I can't remember completely. It seems seems a lifetime ago in some ways. But yeah, I mean, so one of the biggest things that helped me in terms of starting is that I had a client relationship manager join me from Foss. So
Right.
because I was leaving, because the other advisor was leaving as well, there were redundancies. One of which
Oh.
was Sarah, who is my client relationship manager now. And I say, and I genuinely believe this, my most important sales pitch ever was the day the day after she got made redundant, because I couldn't say anything to obviously any of the back office staff before it all got finalised and notified, was then having lunch with her and saying, right, okay, this is what I'm planning, setting up by myself, that I would love for you to join me and come on a journey with me and business. And she took one night to sleep on it and came back and said definitely yes. And that has been key to making the business the relative success that it is so far.
So you went off to the and then after that you went off to the FCA that you know to get your authorization after you'd had a conversation with Sarah and she'd decided to come in, or was that before?
No, I'd already got the application in place. I'd got the application. Well,
right.
It was, or I don't know, put in 4 months previous to that or something like that. I think I can't remember.
Right. Understood. So you yeah, right. Okay. And then at what point was the conversation with the clients to give them a choice whether they stay with the current business or whether they come with you? Was that after you'd had the authorization?
No, it's a little bit before that actually. Just the way that it worked in terms of there was a sort of intervening period whereby the business got sold, but I was still working at Foss until my authorization came through from the FCA. So when that happened, basically notified all the clients and said, right, okay, the business is being sold, but I'm going off by myself. And then there were a lot of individual conversations with clients and just explaining, right, this is what I'm looking to do. And these are options. Obviously, I'd love for you to join me. And then we waited till December. And as soon as I got my authorization, then I'm writing out letters to clients and saying, okay, right, time has come. Will you join me, basically? So, I like to think I had a pretty good idea, and all of the words were saying, yes, we'd like to follow you, but until it actually happened, there's obviously a little bit of concern. So thankfully, when we did get the letters out before Christmas in 2021, they all came back pretty quickly and moved them over to Lisle Financial Planning now.
Yeah, good stuff. So it's how further are you now? It's now a year, isn't it?
2 years, almost 2 years.
No, sorry, it's 2 years.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2 years in. Give us a picture of the business. So give us some metrics to understand where the business is, the people, the clients, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so run a very lean business in terms of it's me and then Sarah, but then contracts out to other people. The partnerships there are really important. But in terms of numbers, it's roughly around about 53 million assets under management, around about 90-ish, a bit higher than that, families. So turnover for this calendar year will be around about 390,000. So mostly recurring revenue. And then, profit margin is a little bit harder to determine because it depends what you judge to pay yourself. So I think it's around about 20%.
Right, incredible stuff. So like 90 odd families, 56 million. So you basically have, I don't know, just over £500,000 per client. Mm-hmm. And Sarah's jobs, obviously relationship management. You are responsible for the advice. What happens with all the admin back office, so to speak, stuff? Who does those sort of things? Or is that Sarah's?
Yeah, so that is where I come back to this point about Sarah and being so important in terms of the role. So like client relationship manager, it's like an administrator, but more. So
Right.
obviously administration is part of the function, but she gets fully involved. So she's first point of contact for clients. She's involved with the marketing, so sort of helping out with the newsletters and various other bits like that. She does what I think you would classify some of the power planners do. So she'll put packs together. She'll do a certain amount of the research. And then also, she is what I would class part practice manager. So she helps me with my FCA returns and gets fully involved in the processes and the systems for how we're dealing with clients and whatever else. So, she, as much as anything, she's a thought partner. So when I'm trying to sort of bounce ideas off somebody, she's there. She's got really good insight. She's got loads of experience, and it works really well as a team. So that it's fundamental in terms of running the business.
And when you were making the decision as to whether or not you're going to go directly authorized versus joining a network, what was the thinking there? What led to the route that you ultimately went on, which is going directly authorized?
Yeah, well, I came from a directly authorized world. So, and because I was involved with the previous partnership, I was quite involved in a lot of the stuff anyway. So I had a good feel for it. But as part of setting up, the other guys I should probably mention is Next Gen Planners. So I'm a member, and they happen to have this blast off course when I was setting up, just purely coincidentally, but really beneficial. And that I sort of ended up having discussions with them and spoke to a few networks just to sort of get a bit of a feel. But ultimately, it just felt right that I go directly authorized, and just having that flexibility to shape the business exactly how I see fit was the overriding factor.
Good stuff. So let's talk about the wider team of support. Beyond you and Sarah. So you mentioned the Next Gen Planner. Who else, or what else is in the picture of power planning, compliance, investment process, if you want to go there? But what else do you consider as part of the wider team that enables you to deliver the service that you do to clients?
Yeah, so I sort of surrounded myself to people I would say in similar situation to myself. So I like dealing with business owners, so small power planning companies. So I use CatMock at Unity, and there's her, Dave, and another person as well. And they, from my point of view, I just, as a sole advisor, I don't see I'd be able to get access to that quality power planner, or find it difficult to hire that in-house. So she is brilliant for being able to bounce off ideas. It is taken quite a certain amount of work to get everything working properly, and we've got quite a structure behind that, but now it works exceptionally well. And so I struggle to see myself hiring an in-house power planner in the future because of that. So that's key in terms of power planning. And then same with compliance. So I use a lady called Karen Mallins, straight talking northerner, doesn't sit on the fence, which is very unusual for compliance. So I love it. And then, there's other people such as Dan Graham at Next Gen, who helps me in marketing. I've got a really strong relationship with my accountant, outsource IT, that sort of thing. I outsource my investment strategy to DFM perspective as well. And then the other thing is protection. So I try to stick to what I consider myself good at. There's no way that I'm going to be able to do good enough to know the protection market well enough. So I've got a girl called Naomi Greatorex from Heath Protection, and just anything protection wise, I just push on to her, and she's an absolute whiz in that field. So I guess that's the team that's around me, and I really try to keep them close, even if they're not working directly for me. And I feel that works really well.
Good stuff. And the arrangement generally with the team, especially the power planning and compliance, is that typically sort of retainer based, or is that ad hoc as you need them? How do you manage to, obviously they're running their own businesses as well, how do you manage to keep them
Yeah.
engaged and interested
Yeah, sure. Well,
and
yeah, I
close.
pay a retainer to both, although I wouldn't say it's the
Right.
largest retainer in the world. And then,
No.
but I am not going to hold on to stuff in terms of if I can get it outsourced and get them to do it for me. I feel that is and then it frees up my time. That is a far better use of my resources. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm regularly putting work through to Kat and the team, and same for compliance. If there's anything done, and I feel they're in a much better place to be able to do that for me.
Yeah, no, incredible stuff. Brett Davison has this sort of breakdown of how you think about cost and profitability in the business. I've forgotten now the exact match. I think it's something like 40 to account for the pay and cost of the advisor. Then you have I think it's 35 for the overhead, and then you have 25 for profit margin. Do you how do you look and think about that framework?
Yeah, well, I think that sounds about right. But as the sole advisor, it's how do you adjudicate what your own pay? In terms of yeah, and certainly from the overheads perspective, I think that makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I'm fully in line
Yeah.
with Brett's thinking there.
And talk to us about the client and the proposition around that. So do you generally, what did the client look like? Is there a particular, there's all this conversation about, having a niche, having a type proposition that focuses on that niche, or, I have seen many successful firms run more or less a generalist practice. How do you think about that?
So my strapline for the business is in terms of like who I market to is small business owners and professionals or executives approaching retirement. So sort of Ron Seal approach does do what I say on the tin, and I know that is your standard market for financial planners. But I think that's for a reason, and also, look, I'm a small business owner, or I'm a professional, so it makes it very easy for me to relate to those clients, and that's where I sit now. I often think about how I niche down further than that, and I struggle, to be honest with you. But I don't seem to have a problem in terms of referrals or incoming clients, and just because of my numbers, I'm having to be a lot more particular about which clients I take on at the moment. So raising the bar probably in terms of the amount of minimum assets under management that they'd have. But yeah, generally they sort of fit into that sphere. But I've got plenty of clients that are either older than that or younger than that.
And just broadly speaking, I'm just trying to get a sense, 2 years in, what proportion of the clients would you say came with you from the original sort of your previous life or firm versus the new clients that have come on board since then?
So I would say probably 80 to 90% were existing clients, and then 10%
Right.
of new clients have gone on. So I think assets under management when I originally moved across was around 42, 43. So increased by
Right.
about 10 million in that time scale in terms of pure assets. But yeah, I'm not taking on loads of clients, and I'm just trying to set the business up to be able to attract the right sort of clients going forward, and that's a big thing for me going as I move forward with the business.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And, I don't know, what would you say the first 12 months, maybe even 18 months, mostly is, taking moving the new clients across, making sure that the service is bedded in, and I am speculating here, but were you taking new clients in the first year? versus dealing with the existing ones?
Not really for the first 6 months, actually. So, funnily enough,
Right.
I just knew that I needed to get my systems and processes in place, and obviously, it was absolutely key for my existing
Yeah.
clients coming over that I did not drop the ball. Like that is where the bulk of my business
Mm.
was coming from. They'd been good enough to
Right.
show faith in me in terms of coming to new the business, which I'm extremely grateful for. And sort of in the knowledge of that, I just really said, right, okay, I just can't deal with new clients at the moment while I'm focusing on it. So I ended up actually having a bit of a wait list, so which was very, very encouraging, and also maybe told me something and a bit of a lesson for future. But yeah, so I set it up, got the clients, and when I felt reasonably happy that we got to a place that was good enough for existing clients in terms of the servicing structure that we got behind it, then I took on a few new clients after that, and took on a few nice new clients as well. So it worked well.
Incredible stuff. It's an amazing journey you've been on. So kudos to you and to Sarah for putting up with you.
Definitely kudos to Sarah from that
Yeah.
point of view.
um, incredible foundations that you've laid for the business. Now, looking back, 2 years into the journey now, I have had the phrase, many financial planners are reluctant business owners. Would you describe yourself that way? Given the choice, would you prefer that you'd stayed at a previous firm, or that you've found a way to manage the internal succession of but the firm? Would you would you wish you'd done this any sooner? How are you feeling about that?
So actually, I mean, it's a question that I've been asked before. It's like, oh, don't you wish you'd done it sooner in terms of setting off by yourself? But I really don't. I'm really happy with when I actually set off by myself, and it felt like the right time to me. And the same goes for actually starting as a financial planner. So I was about 30 when I started as a financial advisor selling
Right.
protection. I halved my wage at the time, so I remember starting off at £15,000. But actually, I can still remember my career before it. And whilst I didn't like any of the jobs, like I love financial planning. I think it's the most wonderful job, and I appreciate that more because of the experience before that. And then in terms of starting my own business, well, there were multiple times where I thought about leaving Foss. Couldn't quite get things to work in my mind.
Right.
They were great guys, and really appreciate all they did for me. But they were strong characters. I was a strong character. We all had certain different views about how we wanted to do things, and I made plenty of mistakes whilst I was at Foss, and also just a pure level of personal and career development in terms of managing people, understanding the industry, all of those sort of things. Just wonderful experience that really helped when I did actually start by myself to make the process that much easier. So like I look at it and I'm really grateful. So and I think the timing for me was perfect.
Yeah. So the overnight success that we see today is taking you at least 14 years, isn't it? Like the journey from joining the profession to actually today. It's what, 14, 15 years?
Yeah,
Maybe
absolutely.
even more, 16.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm still learning. There's still a lot of learning.
Still
Yeah,
learning. Yeah. Incredible. So you are what? I'm guessing 45, 30, no,
yeah, good, that's right.
45?
Yeah, well, I'm 45 next month, so yeah, close enough.
Yeah,
45.
45. I'm very 35, you said 35. No.
I'll take it. Don't think I'll get away with it.
Right. So we're sitting here for your 55th birthday, right? Is that too long? Let's try 50th. For your 50th, big zero, big zero. Talk to me about what the Delisle financial planning business is. on your 50th birthday. We're sitting having drinks. You're talking to me about what the firm is in 5 years' time.
Sure. Okay. Well, my main overriding factor is I want to build a business that I'm proud of, and so that's the overarching thing. But I've set off by myself as a solo advisor of business, and what I found is I really quite like it. And for the foreseeable future, I'm not saying never ever, but actually staying as a sole advisor of business is the way that I see it going. And so, yeah, I really want to grow the business, but under the sphere of being just one advisor. So, you know, I look at the Paul Cleworths and Warren Shoots of the world and stuff like that, and you know, maybe I can sort of at least attempt to get to where they are. So that maybe talks about the figures, but talks about maybe the lifestyle as well. One thing for me, I think, so it's obviously me and Sarah at the moment. I moved office this year, so we've got this nice new location in Northleach, and lovely. But part of the reason for that, so I can get a third person, and I'm yet to decide what the third person will look like, but I kind of feel like I want a third person. And as much of the reason is from a cultural point of view. And I just think rather than just me and Sarah, having three people to bounce ideas off is an environment that I want to be in. Yes, there's other advantages in providing extra capacity, and there's a little bit of slack if somebody breaks a leg or something like that. But it is primarily, I think, just because I want to have that nice lean business, three people in. I think it works culturally in terms of dynamically, and so that's there. And then really, it's just keep on developing the service, have that really close personal relationship with clients, and hopefully some really good outcomes. And you know, that's enough for me. And the other thing that I'd say is actually, I don't really think too much about selling the business. I mean, that is just such a remote thing. Like, really, from my point of view,
you're still a spring chicken at 45. So
I'm still a spring chicken, absolutely. But yeah, I also think, like, why would I want to stop doing what I'm doing? So it's like, why not build a business that you can just keep on doing and keep on doing? Now, ultimately, yeah, sure, I want to reduce the amount of workloads and the number of days that I work, but I think there's part of me that thinks if I'm continuing to do this when I'm 70, it's just like, well, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. I wouldn't be able to do it for financial reasons just because you want to do it. And that may or may not be true. But I think that's a nice aspiration.
Absolutely. I could not agree more with you. And I like that vision of, in effect, you know, £1 million solo advisor practice, you know, like my, you know, my friends, you know, Paul Cleworth, and others in the profession, well supported and surrounded by people that actually you love and enjoy working with. I think, you know, serving clients, I think it's a fantastic aspiration. And look, you're 2 years in, you know, 400,000 pounds turnover. I'm doing the maths in my head. You need to grow maybe 15% each year to achieve that, you know, in 5 years' time. You know, so I'll be rooting for you, James. I want to say thank you for coming to the podcast, for sharing your journey, you know, including some less glamorous part of the journey. We hear of the glamorous part, but I'm grateful for your time and wisdom.
Thanks, Abraham. It's been a pleasure.
That's a wrap on today's show. Massive thanks to my production crew, especially Jake Osha, Melissa Canham, and the entire team. And of course, to our sponsor, Timeline, the market-leading provider of integrated planning technology and model portfolio service to advisors. I do hope you've enjoyed today's show. Head over to Apple Podcast and give us your review there. Until next time, goodbye.